I just wanted to. This is Josh again, by the way. Just wanted to create a quick video regarding one of the topics. This is a actually a very famous topic, teaching in the Christian sect that for some reason a lot of Christians don't seem to understand quite well, and this is the topic of the fruit of the Spirit. Not fruits. Oftentimes, when I hear preachings of this, they talk about the fruits of the Spirit, but we'll see as we go through the passage that this is actually talking about the fruit of the Spirit. Now, this is a passage that's found in Galatians 5. Sorry, yeah, and where Paul was talking about walking in the Spirit. So, if we go through the passage, let's just go through it very quickly. Um, Paul says, starting from verse 16, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, then you are not under the law. Now, the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, and the rest. Um, of which I tell you beforehand, just as I told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, and then in verse 22, he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such there is no law. And those who are Christ's have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. Now, most of the time, um, especially here in the Philippines, no, because of the Philippines is primarily a Roman Catholic nation. When the Americans came, Protestantism was introduced, Western Christianity was introduced, or the Western Protestant religion was introduced. And most often, when this is taught, no, we talk about the fruit of the Spirit, or they refer to it as fruits of the Spirit, as if this is something that you could actually lose. There is a term here in the Philippines called nalaglag na naman ang prutas ko, where it refers that, for example, if you're driving and then you get angry at the other person, then you say, I lost my patience, therefore my fruit fell. And when they say things like that, it appears as if they're implying that, I gotta do something to get that fruit back, and no, I gotta fast again. I gotta get back into fellowship with God. And um, this is actually a very dangerous concept that we really need to remove from our minds. Now, first of all, what we need to see here is that the fruit of the Spirit comes as one entire package. It's not something that, there's a fruit of patience here, or a fruit of love here, oh sorry, a fruit of joy here, a fruit of peace, long suffering, kindness. No, it's all in one fruit, and that is called the fruit of love. And in love, you have joy, you have peace, you have long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self control, gentleness, and self control. And notice how Paul talks about or differentiates what the Spirit has versus what the flesh has. He calls, in verse 19, he says works of the flesh, versus in verse 22, where he calls what the Spirit produces as fruit. And now, I don't know if you haven't have noticed this before, but have you ever seen a branch of a tree struggling to produce fruit? Like if you look at the mango or an apple tree, have you seen any of its branches, like shivering, just kind of exercising, wanting to produce that fruit? No, it doesn't. It just sits there. It stays attached. As long as it's attached to the tree, it's going one way or the other. It's going to produce fruit. And so we go back to I believe it was John 15, where Jesus talks about him being the vine and us being the branches, and he says that apart from him, we're not able to do anything, and that if we don't produce fruit, what the Father does is that He puts us up, sets us. You see, in vines during the day. I have an entire blog on this. Check out my blog site. I have an entire blog on the about the vine and the branches. When Jesus talks about the vine and the branches, and when a vine, you see, there are only two ways a vine doesn't produce fruit. If a vine is, just on the ground, crawling, it's covered in dirt, it's not going to produce fruit. And so what the farmer does is that the farmer doesn't cut it off. The Greek, I don't know why they translated it into English that way, but in the Greek, it doesn't mean cut off. It means lifts up. And ask any vine farmer, vine planter, if a vine branches are not meant to be on the ground. That's why you have, I think they call it trills, where the branches hang onto those trills so that they get oxygen. They're in the air and they get the sufficient amount of oxygen, and they don't get covered in dirt, and that's how they produce fruit. Now, in the same manner, you see, there are only two ways. One is that if it's covered in dust, or if the tree is healthy. Now, Jesus says, I'm the vine, or I am the tree. And that's enough assurance already that, well, we're connected to a healthy vine. And if we just focus on Jesus and not try to work out, then the fruit will just show. And once again, like I said earlier, it's called a fruit. It's called the fruit of the Spirit. And it's encompassed in love. It's kind of like the attributes of God. God doesn't have these separate attributes. He has righteousness, or he has holiness. He has righteousness here, holiness here, justice here, love here, compassion here, mercy, grace. No, no, no. All of God's attributes are encompassed into one essence. And it's His essence, which is love. John says God is love in 1 John 3. And so, in the same manner, when that fruit of love manifests in our life, then along with that fruit comes patience, comes self-control, gentleness, and I think that many Christians have this wrong idea of what gentleness or patience means. That's why, and that's the reason why often they talk about, how their fruit fell off. First of all, when you get angry, by the way, that's not your patience wearing out. The Bible, James talks about how we should be angry but don't sin. So anger, by the way, is not sin, and it does not cause your fruit to fall off. And for the sake of argument, say your fruit does fall off. Well, you're still connected to the vine. Jesus said, "I'll never, by any means, cast anyone away." And so, all you have to do is to just stay attached to the vine, and you don't even have to do anything to stay attached to the vine. Just relax, rest, look to Jesus, and He'll just produce another fruit. You don't have to struggle, brothers and sisters. You don't have to struggle to produce fruit, because the life of Jesus is in you. You will automatically produce fruit. Well, that basically ends our my short video. I hope that it helped you guys. And once again, thank you so much. Do leave your comments below if you want to have some discussions on this topic. Yeah, so once again, grace and peace. Thank you so much, brothers. Have a great evening. Bye bye.